Do not sit here and tear down other artists because you believe that they should be doing something that caters to you. That's not fair, because you are not the artist. And if you were, then it's your responsibility, your calling, your prerogative to make something that caters to you and others like you. It's not the responsibility of everyone else to just integrate everyone into everything. It's not. Hey yo, what's good? This is your host, Tarad Rashan, and you are now tuned into Taradcast, grains of salt to flavor life's meal. Yes, sir. If you're brand new, welcome to our show. But if you're coming back for another spectacular dose of Taradcast conversation, welcome back. Now you can take everything we say with a grain of salt. We simply just want to add some flavor to your meal. So if we're doing that, we're doing our job. Let's get it. Welcome back to Taradcast, grains of salt to flavor life's meal. I am your host, Tarad Rashan, and we are going to be diving into the world of art today. And this episode is for all of my creators out here. If you are an artist of any kind, this episode right here is for you. And we're going to be coming from the standpoint of, and you may have heard this phrase, but those who can create and those who can't critique. And we're going to be diving into the second half of that phrase, because nowadays we have run into such an emergence of people who lend their voices to critiquing art and critiquing artists. And many of these people are simply unqualified to do so because they themselves are not artists. They themselves cannot create. So what do they decide to do? They decide to critique. And so we're going to be talking about art, and we're going to be talking about those who critique art. So if you are an artist of any caliber who enjoys what you do and puts passion and hard work and money and time and energy into the things that you create, this episode is for you, because me, as an artist, I stand with you and I notice these things as well. And I want to lend my voice to this topic because it's also one that's very personal for me. So before we jump into today's subject matter, we just like always, have to take care of our housekeeping details. So, if you would like to take our show with you on the go, just know that we are hosted on virtually all major podcast streaming platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, and iHeartRadio, as well as even on Facebook. Just search Taradcast on Google or your favorite podcast and social media apps to find us. And big Patreon shout-outs go to our patrons, Wave Parker, Janae, and Erica. Again, I always want to thank you for your continued love and support. And it's because of you that this show is even possible. And also, I have another quick plug here, because one of our patrons is also now an established author. So shout-outs to Janae. Congratulations on your book, because creating a book, taking the time to put your life and your feelings and your creativity to a story so many people, honestly, so many people nowadays, they write books, and they want to write specifically about themselves, and mainly it's because they know themselves. But Janae, I'm proud of you because you took the time to write a completely new story based on things that you have seen, things you have experienced, things that you have dreamt about, things that have shaped your life where you are now. So again, you already know I got a copy of your book, and I'm getting it signed. But congratulations to you, and I hope that you continue to succeed in this world, because you are an artist. You have produced something that people can get their hands on and read and interpret and feel where you're coming from and to experience your story. So shout out to you for everything that you've accomplished in the last few months. I'm very, very proud of you. But back to the housekeeping. If you believe in Tarodcast and you would like to receive exclusive Patreon perks, as well as get this show ad-free, then sign up at www.patreon.com/Tarodcast. That's www.patreon.com/Tarodcast. And if you don't want to support Patreon, that's perfectly fine. If you have an opportunity and you're listening to this show on Apple Podcasts, you can simply leave us a 5-star review. 5-star reviews help us to get noticed in the podcast world. They help us to set ourselves apart from other shows. And so simply leaving a 5-star review on our show would do wonders for us. And that is another huge way of supporting Tarodcast, grains of salt to flavor life's meal. So if you are listening to this on Apple Music, or if you simply want to grab your friend's iPhone and go to Apple Podcasts and find our show and leave us a 5-star review, you can do that too. We will not judge at all, I promise you. But let's go ahead and continue. So if you're needing natural oils for ultimate hydration and care for your hair and skin, then hit up the resilient Lotus. You can also use promo code Tarodcast to receive a discount on your purchase. Looking for some dope customizable visuals for your next logo, flyer, album cover, or animated video? Check out at Rose Graphism on Instagram to take your marketing to the next level. And last, but certainly not least, if you are in need of music for your next project, podcast, cipher, or study session, get in touch with V-Dizzle, aka producer V-Dizzle, who is the exclusive producer of Tarodcast music. This man is another artist, just like Rose. See, we're all about supporting artists here. We're all about supporting artists here. So hit up producer V-Dizzle for your music needs. The man is a musical genius. He really is. He really is. So if you need music, hit up producer V-Dizzle. As always, links and contact information for everyone in our housekeeping segment right here will be in our episode notes. And now, letters to our legacy. This second letter goes out to all the sons of our world. Never fall victim to the notion that your masculinity is tied to how hard or tough you can be. A man's masculinity comes from a deep respect for himself and knowing exactly who he is. Oftentimes, most people will make you feel that in order to be a man, you have to parade your strength and power amongst those who have no need for, nor do they ask for, such energy. In reality, if you have to convince other people that you're strong, You're not. You are the exact opposite of that. But when you believe in who you are and you exude who you are naturally, it will be recognized. And most importantly, it will be respected.
Now tell your kids to go live their life.
That includes you too, Sayla.
Okay. Jeez.
All right, y'all, so let's get into it. First, what I want to do is I want to talk about the impact of the artist. And so when it comes to art, what we have seen in history is that art has been a staple in shaping the way that the world turns. It conveys feelings and messages through its story. Like one of the very first art forms was the art of storytelling, and being able to convey the adventures of people, whether they be real or imaginary. Storytelling was one of the first forms of art that truly got people to use their imagination. And the power of imagination is such a force that it has led to creating so many different things, so many of the things that even we take for granted even now. The power of imagination, the power to look and to access the insides of your mind and to see something, to create something, to make it real, to make it visible to you, and then to produce that in the outside world, in the real world. The power of imagination is such a strong force. And the art of storytelling is one of those first concepts of art that really allowed people to access and to discover their imagination. And because of that, art in history evolved. Art in history exploded. Think about all those painters that we know of, the people who created the magnificent pieces of art that are now in museums and galleries, things that have survived for centuries, because when they were produced, when these paintings and pictures were produced, they had such an impact on the world. They struck a chord in the world so hard that chord sound reverberated all across all of the continents, to where people had to see what this artist created. We think about artists, and I'm sorry, I'm just going to name off the Ninja Turtles here because I know that they were inspired, they were named by creative artists, but honestly, these were people that created so many wonderful things. Donatello, Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Raphael, Pablo Picasso, who I still can't even believe died in the 70s. I thought he was back in the 1600s with everybody else as well. And I'm just like, that still boggles my mind. But thinking about these artists, even the Renaissance artists, if you want to call them that, these people created works that we still admire, that we still find ourselves in awe over. They created these things because they're artists. We can also think about poetry as well. And there have been poets who have been lending their words to helping the world see itself, helping people see themselves, and in doing so, helping the world to understand the various perspectives that people have because of the way that they are living in it. This is something that very few people can do. Mastering words is not something that a lot of people can do. And those who are able to do it, and those who can put words together to convey a picture, to convey an emotion, to convey a situation, to convey a feeling, and also to inspire all of these kinds of things. These are also very powerful people. These are very powerful people. These are also artists who are able to move you with their words. And there are so many poets out here who have created poetry that we read, poetry that we've studied, poetry that I've studied. Because before I was a rapper who's not a rapper, I was a poet. And my heart, my whole soul is still a poet's heart and soul. And so understanding what words can do when you put words next to each other, even when you make words rhyme, or if you don't make words rhyme, just being able to convey a broader vision, a broader idea, just from putting words next to each other, crafting them, making sure that they are intricately placed, that has impacted this world's history in ways that so many of us can barely imagine. And then there are also artists who work with their hands in solid materials, who make sculptures. Now, we have all drove past a place and we've seen these sculptures in places that you wouldn't even think that a sculpture would need to be. Like on Northwest Expressway in front of IBC Bank, there's this big red sculpture out here, and I forget the name. I think it's called like the Three Sisters or something. But if you're driving on Northwest Expressway here in Oklahoma City between Portland and 63rd, IBC Bank has a big red sculpture, and it's actually pretty cool. I mean, it's very minimal in its design, but the way that it's crafted, it's very cool. I like it. It's actually I think it's a Pokemon gym in Pokemon Go. But sculptures, people have created sculptures like the Thinking Man, you know, these types of visual representations. People have made Greek and Roman goddesses, people have made animals, people have made things abstract, people have made colorful, you know, just sculptures, right? And it's crazy, because to think about the time that it takes to carve out this idea, like in many instances to literally carve out this idea and to make it tangible to where you can reach out and feel it, where you can admire it, you can look at it from all angles with 360-degree vision. And you can see the details. Like, there are sculptors out here who can take marble, and when they chisel at it, when they mold it, they can make a whole woman wearing a water-soaked dress, and it looks like this masterpiece here. It looks like the woman was wet and the dress is sticking to her skin, but there is no water here. Like, you have to understand the level of intricacy in executing this vision to make a marble sculpture of a woman wearing a rain-soaked, water-soaked dress, and the dress is sticking to her skin, but it is a sculpture. It's not us. It's not real. But it looks so real. You have to respect that attention to detail. And then another art form that has impacted history that I know many in my community don't talk about is theater. Putting on shows. And I feel like this is also another extension of storytelling. But the theater world, who has dedicated themselves to putting on these shows because they love the ability to act, they love the ability to sing, they love the ability to convey a broader message through a story that a playwright has written. that a screenwriter has written. And these types of events, they gather so many people together to watch something that is going to literally be something unlike they have never ever seen before. And I got my very first dose of theater when I went to go see my brother-in-law in one of his very first performances when he was in high school. And I remember the very next year, he ended up landing the leading role in the production called Pippin. And I had heard of it. I had never seen it. And so that was my second exposure to theater. And watching him do everything he did, sings the songs that he sang, to dance across the stage and interact with all these people, to feel the message of this show. It was incredibly impactful. And you know what? I realize right now, I just told y'all a lie. My first actual experience with theater was actually my very own in 5th grade, being a part of the stage play Annie, where I called myself Big Daddy Warbucks. But, you know, I was a 10-year-old at the time, and so I thought it sounded cool, but I also thought it sounded funny. But yeah, now that I think about it, I have been someone who was involved in theater, and I remember loving it, memorizing all those lines and singing those songs and understanding the choreography and all these things. It was such an awesome experience for me. And it's one that I respect, because even at that young age, there was a lot of time and dedication spent into putting on these shows. And we had multiple shows every week, but we worked hard. We did. And it was so fun. Everybody who went to Dewey Elementary School, shout out to you if you remember the production of Annie. And if you remember me as Oliver Warbucks in that show. Because, man, I remember I put my heart and my soul into that. I put my heart and my soul into that. And I remember that. I was so proud. I was so proud of not only of myself, but of everyone in it. And so theater is designed to capture people, to put on a show and to reach the people. So that way when they leave that auditorium, they don't leave the same way that they came in. And books, just like all the books that we have in our libraries, people took time to write these stories, to write these memoirs, to write about these events, to do it in a way where you could pick it up and absorb all of the information that's on these pages. Books are another form of art that are designed to infiltrate and open up your imagination, to expand your knowledge, to make you consider something you've never considered before. Authors take time to write books. My wife is an author, and she has also written a book, and I'll have it linked in the show notes of this show. But taking time to write a book, taking time to put everything that you want to convey on a page to where somebody can pick it up and read your words, read your ideas. Like, you have to understand what goes into that, because nowadays I feel like there are a lot of people out here who write books because they just want to talk about themselves. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with that, but you know, I'm getting ahead of myself. Books themselves are such a haven for the imagination because of what they are able to do. And I've read some wonderful books in my lifetime. And maybe at some point we'll do a show about the different books I've read and talk about them and go into further detail. But today's not that show. I just want y'all to know that authors are also artists who use their words to create stories, to inspire your imagination, to take you to a place where you may have been or where you may have never been, and to keep you there and to engage you from the beginning of the first cover to the end of the last cover and everything in between. Books are a form of art. Music, for those of us who create music, you already know, those who play instruments, those who lend their voice, you already know the impact that music has. Music can literally move people. It can inspire people. It can make people feel things that they didn't even think that they could feel. And I remember, and for most of us in our community, we don't really allow ourselves to feel a whole lot. But I'm gonna take a moment to be vulnerable and open with y'all real quick, because I tell y'all to be vulnerable and open with yourselves. I'm gonna take a moment to be vulnerable and open with you all, because there's a song, and it's called the Disney Love Song Medley by this group called Voctive, and they took some of these songs from Disney movies that probably don't get all the love that they deserve, and because everybody's singing Let It Go and stuff like that, but they took this medley of songs from movies like Hercules and Tarzan and Tangled, and there's a couple of other ones that escape me right now. But I remember there was one time this year I played that song, because I've heard it before, but I played that song because for me, I wanted to feel something. And so I turned on that song, and I remember listening to it. It's a beautiful arrangement, and not once but twice at certain points I broke down and cried. I'm not gonna lie to you, because it was beautiful. The way that these people's voices were mashed together and arranged to create this arrangement. It was beautiful. And I have no problem admitting when something is beautiful, because the how it made me feel, it was pure magic to me hearing this. And I just sat back and I just let it take me over. I let these voices take me over. It almost sounds like I was possessed, but I let their voices take me over, and it moved me. Because their voices were so well arranged, and it was so on point. It was beautiful. And so yeah, I cried twice. But it was such a good release though. It was such a good release. And music has the ability to do that. It has the ability to move you, to make you feel, to put you in a moment to where your emotions take over and you can just release. Like, that is such a wonderful thing. Dance, for those who dedicate their lives to dance. This is an art form. Dancing is a form of storytelling. It can also bring those emotions out. If you've never watched World of Dance, which is probably one of the best dance shows I've ever watched, then you're missing out, because the people here are also creating stories. They're creating visuals. They're literally moving with their bodies in a way to where it entrances you. Dance is so powerful. And it is something that has been a staple in so many cultures, including our own. For centuries, dance has been also a form of communication, but also a form of showing respect, a form of storytelling, a form of arts as a whole. And so dance is another form of art. And when I think about the evolution of art over the centuries and over the decades, it has been one of the driving factors that has continued to shape the world that we live in today. There is no denying it. You can even look at buildings if you want to and see that architects are artists. Some of the very places that we go to experience whatever, if we're going to a restaurant, if we're going home, if we're going to a museum, if we're going to an office, you can even look at buildings as forms of art in the modern day that have become a staple in how we interact with the world. And the way that art has evolved has continued to inspire conversation. It has continued to shape thought. It has continued to be the eye-openers for so many things that we would probably be closed to. Because art will continue to evolve. You know, there's that phrase that people say, you know, art imitates life, life imitates art. It is very true. It is very true, because when it comes to art, it is inspired by something. It is inspired by someone. It is inspired by a feeling or an emotion, something that is very, very real. Art takes the invisible and makes it visible. And that's one of the things about art that really can never be taken away. Art is here to stay. Art is designed to bring out the hidden things within us, to make us evaluate who we are and where we stand. And because art has continued to evolve and to grow and to expand, even now, we are seeing emergences of artists who are making art in so many different ways. So many different ways. But honestly, even in the newest ways that art is being created, they are still extensions of some of those most ancient forms that we have now been able to make more refined and to make it more polished, to make it more even user-friendly in a sense. But the evolution of art and how it has impacted this world, that can't be denied. And when it comes to most of us artists, the ones who actually look at the art that we create and have a passion for it, the way that we view the world and the way that we view the influence of the world on us and how it inspires us to create, that is something that I feel that a lot of people will not understand. Because being an artist means that when you look at the world, you see the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. You do. You see it for what it is. And sometimes even seeing that, knowing that it exists, it's hard. It's incredibly difficult to deal with, because being an artist sometimes means that you are in a constant battle with your own mental health and well-being, because you see people, you see the world through a completely different lens. And because of that, you see the best in people, you also see the worst in people. And that is something that is forever an ongoing struggle when it comes to artists. Because we simply feel everything. We feel everything. And that contributes to our worldview. And so, in order for us to find the therapy that we need, we create art. because there has to be a way for us to get these feelings out, whether they be the good feelings or the bad feelings. We have to get them out. They can't stay suppressed, or else we will become depressed. But oftentimes, and me personally, I've also realized that I've created some of my greatest creations from that standpoint of being depressed. Because the only way that I knew how to get through certain situations was to create art. And art has been something that has continuously inspired thinking and conversation based on how someone is experiencing it. And I feel like that is one of the key components that makes art what it is, because it inspires that conversation. It inspires you to think about something, to think about what you're seeing or hearing or watching or experiencing, to think about it and to talk about it. Because talking about it helps to hopefully bring understanding about it. It hopefully helps to validate the artist and what they were trying to show you. Because artists now have created modern day magic. And the word magic is a slept on word. Because I feel like people do not understand the power of magic. And magic, to me, simply is the ability that something or someone has to move you in a way that you have either never been moved or needed to be moved. And it allows you to go within yourself and to experience pieces of yourself that say right back to you, we needed this. We needed this moment. We needed to see what we just saw. We needed to hear what we just heard. We needed to feel what we just felt. And it brings that emotion out of you. It allows you to feel free. It gives you the permission to just be present in that moment. That's what magic is. That's what happened to me when I listened to that song that I told y'all about earlier. But the thing is, art has been studied and broken down so much, and to now it has become a duplicatable science. That's why in schools, people study art. They talk about art. They talk about what it meant to create it, but also they teach you how to do it in various ways. And that's the thing. Because art has now been something that has been successfully studied, because art has now become a duplicatable science, people have now started to trade feeling for a formula. And now we are left with how that formula has birthed an era of critiquing art. Let me say that again. People have become accustomed to trading feeling for a formula, because art has now been broken down into a duplicatable science. And this formula, this studied formula, has now birthed an era of critiquing art. So y'all, we are going to take our very first commercial break. Grab your water, grab your wine, grab your juice, your soda pop, whatever. Make sure you take a swig, stay hydrated, and we will be right back. This is Tarodcast. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome BACK, welcome back to Rodcast, Grains of Salt to Flavor Life's Meal. I'm your host, Tarad Rashan, and I hope that you all took some time to get hydrated. I know I did, because hydration is important, but also what's important is leaving our show a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, because again, it's going to help us move up and set ourselves apart from podcasts that already exist. And you already know what we are trying to do here is something that goes well beyond Oklahoma City. And so make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Take some time. It only takes a couple moments. And again, if you need to go borrow somebody's phone, iPhone, iPad, MacBook, whatever, hopefully they let you use it. But find our show, leave us a 5-star review. I promise it will make a world of difference for all of us here. Thank you. I appreciate your consideration, because again, you know, we're back. We are on it, and we want to continue pushing forward. And you can help us do that by leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. So when you have the opportunity, go leave us that 5-star review. And trust me, we will love you, appreciate you, and thank you for it. Now, let's talk about those who can't, and the fact that those who can't critique. So now we are in this era where we are bombarded with reviews. And reviews, I mean, honestly, reviews aren't always a bad thing, because they have become such a staple in helping all of us to understand something that in many ways reviews are needed. But also, reviews have become the turning point, the pivot point. I really hate that word pivot, but they've become the pivot point in helping the masses of people to decide on what to like and what to pay attention to. You know, we've gotten to the point that you can watch a movie trailer, and one of the first things that they will show you now is the score on Rotten Tomatoes, if it's certified fresh, which means that because this movie has gotten wonderful reviews, that it is now worth watching. The movie that we have created is worth watching. I know you can think of trailers that you have seen for movies, and one of the first things that they have is that Rotten Tomatoes score. It's certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. And reviews have become such a staple in our world, to where now we cannot appreciate art unless we take in the opinions of other people to validate our want or our desire to go and experience this art. And honestly, I have also grown to see that social media has played a huge role in how sometimes the most basic of people believe that they somehow possess the understanding of what makes art. And see, this is probably where I have an unpopular opinion, where I feel that there are certain people who just do not need to have their voices heard. I'm sorry, because your voice lends nothing to the greater conversation. Now that statement is probably going to make a lot of people not like me, but at the same time, I honestly, truly believe that some people's voices do not need to be heard. There is no need for you to speak, because you do not know anything about what you're talking about at all, especially in the art world, especially what makes an artist who he, she, or they are. You are a bystander. And so to think that your voice has any importance on what it is that somebody else created, and you can't do the same thing, or to do it at a greater or higher level, you have no right. But social media has given a lot of these types of people voices to where now they feel they can speak out on any and everything as if they are the guru of that particular subject matter. And one of the subject matters that we're talking about specifically that has been under constant attack by people like this who become armchair critics is art. It's art in any and all of its forms and shapes. And there are hundreds of people benefiting from the concept of breaking art down piece by piece. And this is the thing, the people who break down art piece by piece like this, so harshly, and critique it so vehemently, that piece of art probably was not made for you. Gasp. Sometimes art is not made for the person critiquing it. It's made for another person that can understand it, that can feel something from it, who can be moved by it. There are a lot of people, and again, a lot of people in my community who do not allow themselves to feel anything. But yet, for whatever reason, some of us feel like we have the authority to speak on something, to lend our opinion to it, because so many of us do not know how to just shut the hell up. If it's not for us, it's not for us. We don't need to have an opinion about it whatsoever. But no, even with things that are not made specifically for us, we find it our duty to lend our opinion to it. And it doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't. What is the point of putting your voice towards something when you know nothing about it? It's clearly not made for you. So therefore, it is not for you to comment on, because you will not get it. You will not understand it. And on the flip side, I feel like that's the way that a lot of us, especially in our community who create art in various ways, I feel like that's the way that a lot of us feel as well. Because there are a lot of people who critique our art and the way that we do things, the way that we create things. And it is not for some of y'all to understand. It is not for you to try and interpret. Because this is also based on our experiences. This can be said of any and all cultures who have a history in some way, shape, or form when it comes to creating art. There are certain people out here, it's just not made for you. But yet you want to break it down piece by piece. You know, to give a more modern example, I think about the YouTube channels Cinema Sins and Cinema Wins. You know, Cinema Sins has you know, it's a very funny channel, and I've watched a lot of their breakdowns of movies where they find different things about movies that make it that make the movie not as, you know, what it's cracked up to be. But at the same time, I feel like when I was first exposed to Cinema Sins, they were doing it just to be funny. But now it's become more and more critique heavy. And it's lost some of that comedic charm, because now it feels like there are attacks being made on these movies. Some movies which are perfectly wonderful movies, stuff that I would have been okay missing. But now, again, because there are those who spend so much time critiquing movies, now it makes me subconsciously look for things in movies that aren't right, when that is not the interpretation of the screenwriter, that is not the interpretation of the director, it's not the interpretation of the costume designers and everybody else involved, the actors, actresses making this movie what it is. Sometimes I find myself looking for those little things that don't make sense, those little things that are out of place, somebody's hair being the wrong way, you know, the art of the makeup artists and hairstylists and everybody, those are artists too. And so channels like Cinema Sins, although they are funny, they have also subconsciously created, even in me, an eye that is looking for things that are not necessarily right when it comes to movies that disrupt the continuity, you know, that bring my disbelief out of its suspension. And so there's a counter channel called Cinema Wins where they go out and point out all the great things about movies. And I think it's funny because I don't know if they know about each other. They might, I don't know. But they, you know, when they review certain movies, like it almost like they go back and forth. One talks about all the crazy stuff that we missed. The other one talks about just what makes the movie such a wonderful movie, simply put. But now we are in this era where we have so many new age critics who are literally scrambling to shoehorn their perspective on art, and how they make the literal choice, the self-evident choice, to nitpick and tear down what has been created for us. That is something that is just it still blows my mind even now. It blows my mind even now, because I feel like we are in a way of thinking, we're in an era, we're in a culture, we're in a societal norm now where people are looking at everything under a microscope to find the blemishes. And because people are looking at everything so closely, they can't stand back to look at the bigger picture, figuratively and literally. They're so focused on these tiny little minuscule, no importance details, and they're standing so close to what they are observing that they are so focused on that one little thing that they do not even have the understanding of just taking a step back to see the bigger picture as a whole. And that is alarming, because now people think that that is normal, and it's not. It takes away from the artist and what they want to show you. It takes away from gaining your own interpretation of the whole piece at hand. So many of us are so focused on the tiniest things, the things that don't have importance at all, the things that do not take away from what is being shown to you. We spend so much time on that to where we can't even fathom what it's like to just feel what's being presented to us. That's crazy to me. And I feel like a lot of these conversations are driving more focus towards the technical aspects of creating art, and consequently drying up the ability to feel. You know, we've gotten to a point to where now we want all of our art to be inclusive. We want all of our art to be politically correct. I'm just going to tell y'all one thing. You will not see me hating on a Tim Burton movie. You will not see me wanting to shoehorn people who look like me in a Tim Burton movie. You know why? Because he has a specific vision, and his vision for the things that he creates are for people that also align with that vision. So I have recognized that his art is just simply not for me. It's not for me. You know, there are some wonderful movies and whatnot, but you are not about to see me saying, Tim Burton, you need to put more people of color in your movies, in your stories. You're not going to see me saying that, because he has a certain aesthetic, that pale, dark, you know, aesthetic that mainly includes white people. I'm like, you know what, you can have that. You can have that. Because that is you. That is the art, and that is the direction that you decide to go in, so you can have it. Because my art, the art that I create, I know who I want to include. I know who I make it for. One of the harshest truths that we have to learn is that everything is not for everybody. It's not. But I feel like we're moving in this direction where we have to make everything for everybody, and we really don't. We really don't. because you have to understand that not everybody is going to understand and appreciate what you are doing. They're not going to appreciate the time it took to craft what you just crafted. They're not. So I am not of the belief, as an artist myself, that we have to create everything for everyone. We don't. I'm not saying that we have to segregate people, but what I am saying is that if you don't get it, it's not for you. If you don't feel something from it, it's not for you. If you don't see yourself in it, it's probably not for you. But there are other artists who make things for you. Find those artists. Find those artists. Do not sit here and tear down other artists because you believe that they should be doing something that caters to you. That's not fair, because you are not the artist. And if you were, then it's your responsibility, your calling, your prerogative to make something that caters to you and others like you. It's not the responsibility of everyone else to just integrate everyone into everything. It's not. Because if that's not the direction of the art, if that's not the direction of the story, if that is not involved in the concept, then it's just simply not. It's a fact. It's just not. It's not for you. But just because something isn't for you, it doesn't mean that it's bad. It doesn't mean that you have the authority to critique it. Because you don't. You don't. You do not. And if you feel some type of way about it, then you go create what you want to see. You create what you want to see. And I hope that you're also able to deal with the same criticisms that you have been giving out. And I'm just talking about those who critique and those who whine and all this. I'm just like, there's just some stuff that's just not created for you as a person. And that's okay. That's okay. Because this world is so diverse. There's so many different things out here that we can be a part of. And we do not have to make everything fit everyone. We don't. Because not all artists do that. Artists have their lives. Artists have their lives. Artists have their experiences. That's a fact. And so we cannot expect an artist to tailor their experiences to us. That's unfair. That's unfair. We can't do that. And the thing is, because these people, these unqualified critics, are drying up the ability to feel, we've now reached a point in just existing where it seems like the ability to make art that pushes boundaries and challenges social norms are disappearing. The artists who want to do these things, they're becoming and finding themselves under more scrutiny, because now we have reached a level of political correctness where certain things, certain interpretations of people and ideas and the way the world works, these types of things, you can't even do them anymore. Because now we want all of our stuff to be perfect. We want all of our stuff to be just all inclusive. We want it to be the most accurate representation ever imagined. And art doesn't function that way. Art doesn't cater to the whims and the wants of the masses. Art is supposed to make you feel something new, to teach you something new, to help you explore something new. But if we're in an age right now where all we want is things to look like real life, then art is going to forever be watered down. And that's not fair. That's not fair, because there are more critics than there are artists. And the unfortunate thing is that the critics' voices are so loud to where it drowns out the ability for an artist to just create. And that is such a heartbreaking thing, because I've seen this. So many of us, we're just like, oh, they weren't showing an accurate depiction of this, or ooh, that's toxic, they shouldn't be showing this. I'm just like, if you have the nerve to go this hard into just blabbering your opinion about how you think something should have gone, then you, sir or ma'am, or anyone in between, need to create what you want to see. That's it. Simply put, you do it. You do it, because I am tired. I am tired of people saying that art is not art because they convey something in a way that doesn't make you comfortable. Art is designed to even make people feel uncomfortable, to make you face things that you didn't ever consider facing, to show you things in a way that you have never been shown before. And now we've made it okay that if it makes somebody uncomfortable and it makes them triggered and all this stuff, that it just needs to be canceled out. It needs to be redone. It needs to be slammed and slandered. Like, I don't get y'all. I don't get y'all who do that. If it's not for you, it's not for you. But best believe it was for somebody else. So I'm just like, you just need to shut the hell up. Shut your mouth. It's not for you. Realize that not everything in the world is catered to you. It's not. And this is coming from an artist to somebody who cannot create anything that I am creating, who cannot do what I do. I speak for artists because I know what it's like when art hits your heart. When the things you do, the things you experience hit your heart so much, the only thing that you can do is express it. I know that feeling all too well. And to see people out here just saying whatever. You know, I'm like Erykah Badu said, I'm sensitive about my shit. I am. Because I know that for me, it holds a special meaning. And because it holds a special meaning for me, I want to share it. I want people to feel where I'm coming from. And so I feel like we've reached a point where we can't even push boundaries or challenge social norms anymore, because people are just like, oh, you know, you should be doing it this way, or this is glorifying this. Or I'm just like, please just shut up. Please. Because if you have all this to say, but yet you lack the ability to create what you want to see, then you have no right to say anything at all. That's what I believe here on Taradcast Grains of Salt to Flavor Life's Meal. You have no right to say anything at all. You can just shut your mouth, because you are not needed. You are not welcome here. We do not do that here. Shout out to Chadwick Boseman. May he forever rest in paradise. But you know what? There's also another thing, because a critic's critique and an artist's critique are two different things. They're two different things. Because we've gone over a critic's critique. We know how BS that is in most cases. Because they're just watching from a technical standpoint, from a formulaic standpoint. But an artist's critique of another artist, that's different. Because when you understand art, when you understand what the creation process looks like, when you understand your feelings, then you're able to give a critique that is more constructive. You're also able to give a critique that's more appreciative of what you're experiencing. And that is what artists need. That is what we as artists need. Because we need to be around other people who can think and who can jam and who can gel and who can flow on the same wavelengths that we do. Because honestly, those are the only critiques and opinions that do matter. The critiques and opinions from other artists who get where we're coming from, who understand what it's like, who can read between the lines, who can see the hidden colors, who can hear the different messages being conveyed. Those are the people whose opinions actually matter the most. Because, again, critiques from critics who know nothing about what it took to create what was created, that doesn't matter. You're looking at it from a broken down, formulaic, technical, line by line, check off things on the list type standpoint. But an artist is looking at it from a more abstract, a more emotion-based, feeling-based, movement-based feeling. And so this is why I feel like it's important for artists to come together to create outside of the limited boundaries of a critic's knowledge. Because I also feel that those who know the creator, and it doesn't have to be personal, it doesn't have to be somebody like your friend or a celebrity or this figure. What I'm saying simply is that those who know the creator as an artist, from artist to artist, those who know the creator will understand the creation. So with that being said, y'all, I know I've gone on and on about what it means to be an artist and my apparent disdain for those who deem themselves critics, or those who just take it upon themselves to be critics. And what I want to say is that when it comes to art, we cannot let art die because of this. We cannot let art die because those who can't critique. We can't let art blow away in the wind, because for us, art is our life. Art is our soul. Art is our heart and our way of expression. And we need it. We need it. The world may not say it now, but the world needs it in order to survive, in order to keep moving forward, in order to be a place where people can just be themselves. The world needs art desperately, and so we cannot allow art to ever die. No matter what anybody says, we can't. Because if we do, then this world will die. We will become a whole civilization that cannot and will not have the ability to feel. And if that ever happens, this world as we know it will be no more. So artists, if you're out there and you're listening, keep creating. Keep creating. That's all you have to do. And that's our show, y'all. Thank you for hanging in there with me. You all know how to find us, and you all know how to support us. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and also take our conversation to our social media and our Patreon page. Links, just like always, will be in the details section of our show notes. And I'll leave you with this. Wherever you are, whomever you are, I want to always encourage you to be more introspective and vulnerable with yourself. Know who you are, trust in who you are, and love who you are. I've been your host, Tarad Rashan. To you, the listener, thank you so much for listening. And as always, make every effort to find and keep your peace. Till next time.